Okay, I never liked that voice of the recording on Zoom. But everyone, welcome to the Women Who Wow Women CMBDOs in the Legal Industry webinar. I am so excited to have this amazing group with me here today. It's a very hot day in New York. I don't know, what it's like in your area. I'm assuming it's also hot, but I know a lot of people are on vacation, and I'm so excited you're still here. If you registered, you will get the link. I hope you will come to other events. You'll meet all of our women in a minute. And just give me a thumbs up if you can see me the next slide. Trish, yes? All right. So these are all of the things we're covering today. I have tons of questions for these panelists. It looks like most of our panelists, as you'll see, are in their offices today. So that's also something we're going to be talking about, the return to the office or the not return to the office due to Delta. So we're going to talk about all of these things. And I just want to mention we have a couple other events. So next week, we've got Eva Wisnick talking to us about making time for your well-being, which I think is something we all need. So that's next week on the 16th. And then 2 days later, I'm going to do a what you should be doing this summer and fall for business development and branding. I see a lot of people slacking off this month, a lot of people not on LinkedIn, and this is a great time to be focusing on all of those coulda, woulda, shoulda kind of things. All right, so let's do some introductions. I did a terrible job of alphabetizing this, so I'm gonna call in alphabetical order. Jean Marie, I think you are the first person on my alphabetizing list.
Happy to go first.
Okay.
Campbell, I always get early in the alphabet. So I'm Jean Marie Campbell. I'm the head of client development for North America at Baker McKenzie. And what does that mean? I oversee the function that is business development, marketing, communications. So I'm the regional CMO for North America. I'm based in New York, and I've been here almost 2 years.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I think Robin is next, yes.
We're all doing that in our head. I'm Robin Gerard. I am the CMO at Stradling Yaka. We are a mid-sized firm, mostly in the Western United States, and I'm based in Newport Beach, California, where it isn't as hot as it is in New York, and happy to be here today.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Jessica.
Hi, Stephanie. I'm Jessica Grayson. I'm the Chief Business Development Officer at Phillips Nizer in New York City. I am my home base where I am today is in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. It is just as hot here as it is in New York City today. But I'm just thrilled to be here with this amazing group of women. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, thank you. Jean?
Hi, thank you for having me. Jean Hammerstrom. I'm with Benish. We're an almost 300 attorney firm. I am located in the headquarters in Cleveland. I have been with the firm for over 16 years, and I know a lot of you because I've been doing the law firm marketing gig for about 30 plus. But glad to be here, and thank you for having me.
That's awesome. Is that why the sign behind you says 30? Did you put that up just for us?
No, that actually was LMA's 30th anniversary. I got that as a gift, I think, when Adam was president, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So that was a while ago. Yeah. Iris, I think you're next.
Thank you. Hi, guys. I'm Iris Jones. I am at Ackerman. I have been here all of 90 days, my new gig. And I am thrilled to be the Chief Marketing and Client Development Officer, serving 750 lawyers in 25 offices around the country. And I am based in Austin, Texas.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna have to hear from you. Also, those plants look good in the back of your, you have to give me some tricks because I kill all plants that I.
And they're real.
Have. Yeah, mine, I don't. I have a black thumb, and if anyone has any tips for keeping an orchid alive, please put them in the chat. Oh, and by the way, if anyone has any questions, we'll get to them, but please use the Q&A in the chat. I'll be monitoring that. And Trish, I think it's you.
It is me, Stephanie. And thank you for having me. Hello to everybody on the panel, great group of people. Iris, what we failed to tell you prior to this event is that this is actually your 90-day review we'll be conducting during the webinar.
Hope you got the chocolates I sent.
That's right. I'm the Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer at Stroke and Levan, which is a national mid-sized firm. I am normally based in New York, but I am enjoying pandemic placement at Exit 2 on the New Jersey Turnpike, 15 miles from both Wilmington, Delaware and Philadelphia.
And Trish has a lovely pool, so if anyone is on their way on the
Saw
turnpike,
that, yeah.
feel
We
free
won't
to
get
stop
into it, but
by.
Josh Peck unexpectedly stopped at my house yesterday for 15 minutes. So
Wow, that's nice.
I'll just leave that there.
Okay, let's just move on then. Jennifer Manton, how are you doing? You're in the office today, I saw.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here. I am Jennifer Manton, coming to you from 1177 6th Avenue in the greatest city on earth, which is what the flight attendant on my flight back to New York on Sunday kept saying on our Delta flight, and everyone kept giggling. I am with Kramer Levin, Naftalis and Frankel. I have been here 7 years already. I've been in legal marketing for 26, I think. And those of you that know me and my story know that I'm here because of Jean Hammerstrom.
Oh, well, that's fortuitous, right? We'll have to talk about that. And we are going to talk
Sorry, Jen.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? We will talk about mentorship and, you know, all of that stuff. So that is awesome. I'm so glad you're both.
It's a great thing. I think I should send her like a royalty check or something.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good thing. I think you should be sending her money. We have this in a recording, so you will be held.
Keep it up, Stephanie. Broker this deal. Yeah.
I will. And I think, okay, so we've got Dawn next.
Hi, Stephanie. Can you hear me? I'm having a headset issue.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can. Awesome. Hi, Dawn Scheiker. I am the Director of Client Relations at Morris James in Delaware. We're 70 lawyers, Delaware boutique, and I am delighted to be with all of you lovely ladies today for this esteemed panel. Thanks for having me, Steph.
Awesome. We'll get into lots of good things about you, your background. And Robin, did we cover you? Yes, we did. Okay.
It was so memorable that
you are so memorable. Okay, cool. And we've got, okay, so that's everybody. And you are going to find out more about us a little bit later. I asked everyone to send me a picture of themselves from their childhood, just because I, thought it would be fun, but also the idea of what we would like to tell our younger selves. So we'll get into this, and I would love for you guys to put in the chat, guess who is who. So I'm missing a photo. Jean is in the middle of moving. So Jean, you get a free pass.
I sent you one.
You did?
I didn't send them.
Wait, Jean, it's up here. Jean's is up here. Okay, Jennifer.
No, I sent you one. It's not there, but that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, I'm gonna show it in a minute. I have it because I will show it. If anyone wants to guess who is who, please put in the Q&A, and I will offer as a prize,
so cute.
Whoever gets the most, I will do a 15-minute LinkedIn training with you. So if anyone
guys are really cute.
Guess who is who. We'll put Jean.
I gave you an easy one.
Everybody knows it's not Jean up here, so we'll come back to this. All right, Phil. So we've got Phil. So Leopard Solutions is sponsoring today's event. So quickly, Phil Flora, who a lot of you know, is here. He's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing. Phil is a friend of women. Phil lives in a house of all women. This is Phil and his family. His dog is even a woman. And I think you have a female cat too. And I didn't put that up here.
Yeah, I figured out a way in my life to surround myself with a lot of women that wow. So I figured it out again today. And I know I'm not, no one's here to listen to me, but I'll be brief. Leopard Solutions, we're a legal intelligence provider. We help law firms with legal recruiting and competitive intelligence and business development. So Leopard Solutions is also a certified WBE. So, I know you've had Laura on here previously, one of the owners, and we've done some great webinars together with some some really good information and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, I just think in general, you know, the reason why I figured out a way to how we surround myself with women that wow is because I know when to speak and when to shut up and listen. So, so Steph, I'll pass it over to you.
There you go, Phil. Thank you for that. And yeah, so if you guys, Leopard has a lot of amazing data about what's going on in the legal market right now, which is important for legal recruiters and law firms. And we did a program a couple months ago on why it takes so long for women to make partner, why they don't make partner. And we have a recording of this. If you want to see it, it's on the Leopard YouTube channel. So it was really interesting topic. And next month's webinar is going to be on diversity. So we'll have heads of diversity talking about all of their what's going on with diversity, because we still have a long ways to go when it comes to women, minorities, et cetera, in the legal industry. All right, so I pulled out some facts and interesting things of some of the women here who have been featured in the Women Who Wow series. And we'll get into this a little bit later, and I will make the slides available, but I thought Dawn sent me this quote and I loved it. It was, you know, what advice would you give other women? And she said, put your oxygen mask on first. You can't be successful at anything else unless you're running, if you're running on empty. And Dawn, I thought this was terrific, and I just wanted to put it up here. And I also have a quote here from Jean, which was about, Jean's like, oh, wow, did I say that? Yes, you did, Jean.
And I talk a lot.
It was about, I asked you guys about what advice you'd give to other women. And you said, you know, find a way to go above and beyond, educate yourself, and don't be afraid to ask others for help, and don't do everything yourself. And I think that that's really interesting. And that's something I want to get into. Another one from Trish, who's always filled with facts and information and wisdom, is just, you know, don't say no. And it's one that I love, and you can do it even if you feel like maybe you can't. There's always a reason to say no, but try to find one. And I think the treating everyone with respect is a good one. Jessica had so many good points that I turned her article into a second article with all of these tips. So I will send this to everyone who attends today. But Jessica, you just are a bastion of knowledge here, and I just love, you know, a lot of things that you said here. So we'll get into these topics. Okay. So again, put your thoughts on who is who in here, and then we're going to delve in. We'll get into this at the very end. I'll show the slide again, but I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to get into this. So guys, tell me what's going on in your world right now. Like, the Delta variant has kind of thrown a wrench in back to the office plans. I know Jennifer Manton said she's working on the new communication to for the chairman to review regarding what the policy will be with regard to returning back to the office. What has it been like for you guys over the last few weeks, month? Where are you right now? What are your thoughts on going back to the office? What are your firms saying? And this is open to everybody, but please feel free to chime in. So who wants to start? Maybe Jennifer, since you said you were working on a communication, what's the temperature there? What are things like?
Well, I mean, I think that I speak for most everyone in this position that the past 17 months have been surreal. And I think particularly with the Delta variant and what's happened in the last month, and the pushback, you know, all the steps backwards we're taking, it's been a very emotional time. For me personally, you see that I am in the office. I live in close commuting distance to the office, so I'm able to come to the office, and I greatly appreciate my ability to do that. But it is a very lonely place to be. I am on the 21st floor of this building, and I can tell you that I have one other colleague on this floor today. And that's how it is usually most days. The constant, the communications, the internal communication demands that have, I think, fallen to most CMBDOs is something that you could not have been prepared for. We launched a new working group yesterday, the KL Flex working group, because like most firms, whenever we are able to safely return to the office, we'll be doing so with embedded flexibility, which means that on any given day, we expect to have about 60% of the people in the office. So a lot of focus and effort is on how we will create best practices and guidelines and a roadmap and expectations for how we will make that a success. And in the course of that work yesterday, we shared a quote from Patrick Smith that I could pull up right now, but I won't try and find it. But basically it was that for the first, the law and the business of law is completely built on precedent. And that is why we are having such a difficult time navigating through this situation, because we've never been here before. And for someone, which I think is a very common trait of most of CMBDOs, and I actually would say for most people in the legal marketing industry, because we're a product of our environment, that is a very unsettling place to go to every day. And the uncertainty and the volatility, I think I'm quoting Heidi Gardner here, the VUCA world that we're in just gets more strange every day.
Yeah, I think that's right. Have you guys had a similar experience? Like, anyone else want to chime in? What are your thoughts about where you are? Also going back to the office, like, anyone have thoughts about, it looks like, so Jean, you're in the office. Well, so Robin, Jean, Jennifer, Jean Marie, look like you're all in the office, and other folks work from home. I know you guys are not in the office every day, but
We are in the office every day.
You are in the office every day.
You have been for a while.
And you too. Okay, yeah. Where are the rest of you guys in terms of where, has Delta throwing you guys a little bit, curveball? Like, are your firms requiring people to be in the offices? Are you thinking people are more productive working from home? Like, what's everything? I can't believe we are where we are, because the idea of like not being in the office every day was like so foreign to me for so long. And law firms like thrive on that culture, like seeing each other in the cafeteria or being with your colleagues. It's been isolating, I think, for a lot of people.
I need to differ with you there, just because it's early on. I'd like to differ with you at least at some point during the webinar.
That's why I invited you, Trish. I mean,
right. So I have worked for a lot of multi-office firms, as have a lot of us. So I don't think my experience is necessarily unique, but as a working mom whose kids are old, my youngest will be 19 soon. So I was a working mom for a long time. Now I'm a working grandmom. I've been working from Costco and dance recitals and, any place I had to work from, the lacrosse field, for a long time. So I actually didn't find this that odd. And I've also had to build relationships with people in Vietnam or Singapore or Paris or whatever, or Des Moines or Dallas, for that matter. Some of the US cultures are more foreign to me than some of the international cultures, whatever. So it's not that I found as surreal as just this, that everyone was doing this. I think, to Jennifer's point, that there are two people in the office, it's like there's been an apocalypse, right? So when you go in, it's very quiet, and it feels deserted. But one of the things that I have found interesting, and you kind of touched on it, and Jen touched on it, is the increased importance and role of internal communications. I think that's been coming into its own in law firms, but most law firms don't have an employee relations function, right? We haven't had dedicated resources for internal comms, and corporate has had that forever. So for me, that was something where I was like, oh, right, I do know how to write. And then I was doing all this writing during the pandemic. And I think
I have
a
question about that. Is anyone else? I mean, I feel like I spend the majority of my time anymore on employee relations.
No, we have an employee relations person who.
Oh, you're so
it's so important. So
yeah, that's unusual though, right?
Yeah. Well, we hired her right before the pandemic, and boy, she's been busy.
Wow.
But she came from corporate. Big corporation here in Cleveland. But yeah.
I did in the beginning, Jennifer. I spent most of my time on it because our HR director at the time was a hot mess. And so it kind of fell to me. But now we have a great chief HR officer. And so we work together on it. But there are days where it takes half of the day. writing the
I
columns.
think
and
it
doing
takes
all
half of the day, but you have the education piece too, where the lawyers are like, what makes sense from the business standpoint? They're focused on the decision making. They're not particularly driven by the emotional pieces of it, nor am I, but I know we have to pay attention to it. So sometimes they're more driven than I am, whatever. But so you've got to talk to them about why it is you need to. Why do we have to tell them this? And it's like, well, people are operating in uncertainty, and so some periodic reassurance. Just that we don't know what's going on either, but we're paying attention to it. We look at the CDC website, we know what's going on, that sort of thing. Some people, I know Stephanie got a kick out of the staffer people too statement that one of our co-chairs made, and I was so thrilled.
Oh yeah, I
kind of
did.
put it in there tongue in cheek in his talking points, but when we decided to offer the same level of flexibility to staff, exempt and non-exempt, as was being offered to lawyers, that was a conversation with the head of legal personnel, the head of HR, and myself, and it's not really a conversation I would think as a CMBDO that, that's what I'm going to do this year, is talk about how we're going to treat non-exempt staff in terms of their presence in the office. But our roles have, in a good way, become very far-reaching, I think, during this situation.
And that's going to lead me to my next question. So Jessica, maybe you could take this one, which is like, how has your role changed over the last 17 months? And then my second point of this is, where is it going to go, do you think, with 2021? When I planned this webinar, Delta was not a factor. Apparently there's another one now coming, Delta, Gamma, something.
Lambda.
It sounds like sororities. We don't know what's going to happen, but I think we were so excited, focused on going back to the office, and you hear like law firm partners and managing partners like return to normalcy. And I'm like, oh my God, if you guys haven't seen that this is like, oh, someone said it's Lambda. That's why it's like Delta, Lambda. It's just, if we haven't seen the last 17 months as an inflection point in this entire industry, those firms, I think, are going to be behind massively. So Jessica, how has your job changed over the last 17 months, or even over the last month or two? And what do you think you're going to be focused on going forward for the next few months?
So our new chief talent officer joined our firm, I think 2 weeks before, we shut down on March 13th, 2020. So I worked very closely with her on internal communications and strategy with our managing partner, our other heads of other administrative departments. And I think that it's just the role of the chief marketing officer, chief business development officer, is really more of a strategic role, any way you slice it. And we knew that already before the pandemic, right? That we were turning into more of a strategic role, and anything kind of strategic falls under us. Whether it's how do we help HR engage employees and make them feel safe, while we're also doing the same for our clients and externally. We've worked very closely together with putting out internal newsletters so that everyone feels connected, and they share pictures of their pets and their families, to kind of make up for those lost conversations that you have in the coffee break room, right? Like I'm taking my kids to camp this weekend, or we got a new puppy, or Trish has new grandchildren, and you lose all of those conversations and connectedness with one another that we kind of try to augment with internal newsletters. We have virtual happy hours. We have Zoom lunches for people, but we all worked very closely together to develop these new programs for us to work together and to work with our clients more effectively in a virtual environment. And I just have to say that the role has changed in that it's strategic, and I feel like I'm tapped more for different things than I would have been maybe 5 years ago. So I'm working on, projects with finance, with IT, with HR, with the managing partner, with the practice group leaders, in a way that really I can touch things that I like doing, and help them kind of see bigger pictures and see how all of the dots are connected.
I'll just follow on to you, Jessica, and I definitely see a change. Again, only at Baker 2 years, but even in the last year, a huge change in really being a coach, being a confidant. We call it our CEO of North America is our chairman of North America. working with the chairman and the leaders, we call it the RMC, Regional Management Committee, on first it was weekly town halls. Well, I never thought that would be my role in working on scripts, working on panels, making it started out as information sharing on what are we doing in office and people, then morphed into we always need a client agenda item because we have everyone's attention, and then it became every other week. So this notion of being strategic, being a confidant, being the voice of the people, right? Straddling the lawyers and the business professionals. It's been really interesting. We have a COO for North America. So working so much more closely with that person who's a business person. And as you say, Jessica, working with our practice group and our chairs. So it's really been such a hybrid role, such a fascinating, interesting role, right? From marketing, business development, sales. We could talk about sales for a year, right? And then also this other role. I just think it's such an opportunity for all of us to be leaders and to really help our leaders be better leaders, right? And I think to me, that's the most interesting part. And what do I see in the future? I think this role is only going to become more relevant, more strategic, more important, because we have this human element. I mean, I am a lawyer, but I get lawyers and I get what they don't get, right? And so this notion of the people aspect, the client piece, and then the business piece, we get to see all that and knit that all together. And that's, I think, where our real value lies.
Yeah. How many of you are lawyers here, by the way? Can I ask?
What was your question?
Yeah, I'm not. And who was that who just wanted to add something? Was that Dawn?
It was me. I just wanted to yes and to all of that and say that I'm also finding that I'm tapped quite often to try to put some certainty around uncertainty. So what is coming next? What is going to change? How is all of this going to change our clients, their business? What opportunities are going to come out of it? What practice areas might not last? I'm in a smaller market. I'm not a global firm. We work with all of your firms. Thank you for your business. And so, I feel like I'm in trying to predict what's coming next and advise on those comms, but also what our strategy is going to be, what our goals are going to be, and where we're going to come out of this in 3 years. Let's not even talk about commercial real estate for all of our offices.
Yeah. Can we talk about your career path? So we'll just shift a little bit and how you guys got to where you are. No one woke up and said, I want to be a legal marketer. Like I didn't even, maybe people do today, but like I certainly didn't know that this profession existed. I got into this field. I was a magazine editor at Redbook Magazine, and I wrote the horoscopes, with a lot of you know, and a marriage column, which, by the way, I've never been married then and now. And no idea what I was talking about. No idea what I'm talking about. Like about the horoscopes either, but I got pulled into legal to become a writer at Paul Weiss, and I was in charge of the alumni program, and it paid really well. And I thought I wanted to go to law school, and then that's what happened to me. And then my CMO inherited me. She came on board. This was Wendy Bernero, who's my mentor now and very close, mentor and boss. And she became our CMO and then took me with her to 4 different law firms. And that was how I moved along. And I don't think I would have stayed in the industry had I not found a person who was who believed in me the way that she did, and that I really wanted to work for her. But I wonder if you guys had similar experiences, just kind of fell in it. And I didn't mention how I got the job. I was moonlighting at night at a private equity fund when I was at NYU, because I had no money. And their biggest clients were Paul Weiss was their biggest client. And they recommended me. So that's like how I got the job. So how did you guys get into legal marketing? And did you know you wanted to be like a CMO, or like, how did it happen, kind of thing? So let's go with, okay, Iris.
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it off very succinctly. We have so many folks here. I want to make sure I'm mindful of that. I practiced law for many years. Actually, I'm back where I started. I practiced law in Austin, Texas for a couple of decades. And I was in the middle of serving as president of International Municipal Lawyers Association. So I wanted to ratchet back my hours as a practicing attorney to serve my role. And a friend of mine, J. Flannery Institute. So I became an instructor part-time for Flannery. And I was really, really excited about not just the client team aspect of it, but finding a new approach to institutionalizing clients. And it was kind of in my DNA anyway, so I really got into it. And when you demonstrate your passion for anything, as Stephanie, as you know, and all of you on this call know, that people recognize it. So as a result, I was hired by Aiken Gump to be their first business development person and worked pretty much exclusively on client teams, client feedback. And that was the launch of my keen interest in client development, business development. From there, I was, hired several firms to serve as the chief. And here I am continuing that role, which I love very much. And of course, it's evolving a great deal from the early 2000s, but I continue to evolve along with that.
That's great. What about you, Robin? How did you get into this field? You told me a little bit yesterday, but you are also a lawyer. You're a lawyer.
I guess I am still a lawyer. I've been in law firms really, except for 5 years, since 1987, when I graduated from college. So I was a paralegal right out of college. I wanted to be an attorney, I thought. And then I went to law school at Pepperdine, and I practiced for 3 years and just knew that I didn't want to be a lawyer forever. I mean, I was a litigator, and all of those litigators were so excited about going to trial, taking a deposition. I was terrified. Mm-hmm. I hated my first deposition, and I'm glad that I never had to do one again. But and then I got hired at a big commercial real estate firm. I ended up at Cushman & Wakefield, but I got hired by a team that was doing law firm leases in downtown LA. So they figured it'd be great to have a lawyer on the team. And I did that for 5 years, had to make cold calls every day. I hated it. I didn't make any money. I probably lost money in that job. When we look back at it, I did not make any money. I learned a ton about sales and marketing. So we went through formal sales training, marketing, and then I started hearing about legal marketing because I had a friend who I owe this entire career to, Cindy Holbrook, who's now at Winston & Strawn, also a lawyer, had gotten hired at O'Melveny to be their director of marketing. And nobody would hire me. I wanted to switch careers. Nobody would hire me because, and I've seen it on my side now, when someone doesn't have the experience, you think, oh, they're not gonna be able to handle it. They're not gonna do a good job. So Cindy hired me at O'Melveny. I had gotten married, and she hired me at O'Melveny to just do some writing. And I stayed there for 6 years and was able to get promoted and loved it. During that time, or maybe after that time, Jean and Jennifer were actually, who'd been doing this forever. I met them, and you guys were so nice and welcoming to me. So the mentor thing is huge. And then I went to Manat, and then I got this job, which I declined initially. I don't know why, but I did. And that's, I guess it was kind of a weird career path, but in the end, every job I had, I use in this job. So that's the story.
Great. That's great. Okay, we have to ask Jean and Jennifer, like their connection to each other. I know it, but I think not everybody knows it. So Jennifer, you want to tell us about how you owe everything to Jean?
Well, let's see how quickly I can do this. When I graduated from college in 1991, I took a job as an admin assistant at a woman-owned small CPA firm. And she was really just a horrendous, terrible person at the end of the day. Very hard boss. Very mean, very vindictive, very spiteful, and I was like her personal assistant. But what she taught me, because she was running her own accounting firm and she also was a lawyer, I ended up writing all of her personal correspondence for all of her new business meetings. That I graduated with a degree in journalism, so writing is what I knew. And we built her like client database, and we started a client newsletter, and I was doing all these things plus, doing her personal shopping, picking up her child from school, running to the bank, cleaning the coffee off the carpet that she would spill, which I swore she did on purpose. And after 18 months of that, I had an opportunity to move to a regional accounting firm in Pittsburgh and actually get a marketing coordinator job, which I did. And I was there about 2 months. And I remember getting paged by the managing partner of the accounting firm, Irv Rosenthal, paged me to come to his office. Second time I was paged to come to his office in 2 weeks, because 2 weeks prior, they fired my boss. And I remember him saying to me, you haven't been here but like 6 weeks, but it'll be okay. We're going to find a replacement. Just kind of keep doing what you're doing and report to this shareholder. So I get paged again, thinking, oh my God, I must have done something terrible in the last 2 weeks, only to walk into his office and he hands me a letter that this woman had sued his firm for a breach of a non-compete that she made me sign as a 21-year-old. And I remember him saying to me, don't worry about this. We're going to help you take care of this. I'm going to give you the name of a woman at a law firm, Tucker Arnsberg. She's their marketing director. Her name is Jean Hammerstrom. Call her and tell her that I asked you to call her and that you need an associate, and we'll take care of this. And that's how I met Jean. And obviously they did take care of it. I'm sure the judge laughed at that right away. It was very easily dismissed.
That woman was trying to stop you from working at the new place?
Yeah.
Wow.
She claimed because I built her client database. I was 23 years old. I mean, it was completely ridiculous.
Oh, come on. That's vindictive. Wow. Okay.
So I met Jean, and she obviously helped connect me to a lawyer, and we had a couple of lunches. And someone that Jean also knows actually came back to that accounting firm to resume her role as the marketing director. She had vacated it, left. They hired the person that hired me. That person didn't work out. She comes home, and after about 3 months, she said to me, literally, this place isn't big enough for the both of us, but I have an idea. There's a law firm that's hiring a marketing manager, and I think you should go for it. So I called Jean and I said, oh my gosh, there's an opportunity at a law firm. What do you know about the law firm? Can I do this job, et cetera, et cetera. And Jean was a good coach and cheerleader for me. And obviously I got that job in 1995, and the rest is history.
That's great. I've been told once before, this place isn't big enough for the two of us, by a woman boss.
What's interesting about that experience is I was at that accounting firm for 3 years, and this woman called me and she said she had left, was planning on leaving the accounting firm. And she said, I just interviewed with another law firm in Pittsburgh. She said, it's not right for me, but I think you're ready for a move. You've been there 3 years from now. I'd like to recommend you for this job. I think you should consider taking this job. And I did. And she did recommend me, and I did end up getting that job. And then it was a larger regional firm, 8 offices, and it prepped me for my move to New York. So she did a very good, she also was very instrumental in my career, came at it from a different place. And I think the point of that is that we don't get here alone. There are so many twists and turns and people that have an impact. And if you went back and unwound them all, they all played a part. And if you just took one of them out of the picture, I would be in a completely different place.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how that works? And Jean, how did you get into this industry? Did you wake up one day and say you wanted to be a legal marketer?
Exactly. No, out of college, I really thought I was going to be working like at Reuter, Finn and Rotman or some big PR firm. I had all these great grandiose ideas, and I went to a state school in Pennsylvania that most people have never even heard of, but there were no jobs when I came out of college. So I ended up going down to Florida and had a similar experience with my first boss, who was a woman and who was just the most horrific, horrible person in the world, but really taught me how to write. Really, I mean, I will give her that. So moved back to Pittsburgh, where I was from. But during my summers of college, I had worked at a law firm for the summer associates as a secretary. And I don't know why this law firm hired me every year because I was horrible as a secretary. I don't know why. I guess they couldn't find anybody else. But anyway, so I worked there and I kept saying to myself, like, why don't they use like advertising and PR in a law firm? I kept thinking this to myself. So then I come back to Pittsburgh. I worked for another healthcare. I was in healthcare in Florida, came back, worked at another healthcare facility in their PR department. And I was part of the PRSA, Public Relations Society of America. And there was an ad for a job at a law firm as a marketing and recruiting coordinator. And I answered the ad because I'm like, I've been saying this. There should be a law, there should be this kind of activity going on in a law firm. And fortunately, I was hired. I remember going in with my big portfolio and showing them all the work that I did. They didn't really care. They told me later. But so I was really excited. They hired me. I had no clue what I was doing. And I've told this story before in LMA, but actually Art Rooney, who owns the Steelers, was the managing partner of this law firm called Klett Rooney. So he hired me. He's the first one to ever hire me as a law firm marketer. My experience then was I had no clue what to do. And I reached out to a woman that some people may remember. Her name was Jane Rechtenwald. She was at Reed Smith in Pittsburgh, was the only law firm marketing person who would take my call and meet with me. And she had come from US Steel. So she was from corporate and then to Reed Smith. And she was the kindest, most giving mentor I've ever had. She really took the time and told me what the ropes were all about and how hard it was going to be for a woman in this position and being at a law firm. But she was very, very helpful. And then I figured out that people at accounting firms, some of my friends and Jennifer mentioned some of them, that they really also had been doing it a little bit longer than me. So I reached out to the contacts at Price Waterhouse and some of the other ones. So that's sort of how I got started, and then just progressed from there to various firms. And then the long story longer is that firm that I worked at during my summers, where I was horrible, they hired me years later as their CMO. So that was Buchanan Ingersoll, but that was fun.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing. Okay. So you weren't so bad, I guess.
Well, I said to them, the managing partner said, do you remember me? Because I filled in for his secretary one time when he was out. He had all kinds of stuff on his calendar and I was just screwing it up. And he goes, no. I said, yeah, I worked for you one week and it didn't go so well. I remember telling him that. He's like, and you want me to hire you now? And I'm like, yeah.
That's great. So yeah. Dawn, tell us about your career path to legal marketing.
Okay, I'm going to keep it kind of shorter. I was like many people and wanted to go in a law firm when I was like 17, 18 years old while I was going to college. Luckily, the law school thing did not work out for me. I would have been an awful lawyer and I would have hated my life a lot more than I do right now. But so I did all of my undergrad, graduate work while working in a law firm. Went abroad to Ireland, which is a story for another day, and came back to the economic downturn. And so naturally just went back to the same law firm I was working on the legal side, legal services side, doing paralegal work. And that turned into a marketing job. It's like one of those things like, who wants to look for conferences? And then just pivoted into that marketing coordinator job that we all kind of start into. And went up the ropes from there, really got a passion for business development, landed at White & Williams as lead business developer for about 8 or 9 of their core practices. Stayed there for 5 years, and here I am back in Delaware, my home state, running Morris James. So that's the short-winded version of a really long story, but I know that you have a lot of other questions, and I wanted to kind of keep it moving.
Yes, okay, awesome. Jessica, I would love to hear you.
So I think my path is very different than the others that we've heard. I was a project manager for large construction projects. And then I got married and had children and I stayed home for a few years. And I moved out near Philadelphia for my husband's career. And once my children were, my youngest was in kindergarten, I went back to work part-time and I started working for entrepreneurs like startups. And what I loved about it is they were so progressive back then. I mean, they would hand you a laptop and a phone on your first day and they would say, I don't care where you work from, I don't, just get the jobs done. And we got to do a lot of different things. You know, sometimes they would say, I need you to be HR for a month, or I need you to do recruiting for a month, or I need you to help out accounting, or do all of these different things. So I got to wear a lot of different hats and understand how a business is run and operates from a really, broad spectrum. I got to play in a lot of different sandboxes, which I thought was a lot of fun. So we would get these startups, and I would work with these entrepreneurs, which was really exciting and fun. And then I would help them get their company to the point where, they would get gobbled up by a larger company. And I would become a little cog in this giant wheel, which was no fun at all. And not nearly as progressive as working for entrepreneurs who knew that, I have to tell you, we were mostly women working for these startups because we would get the job done. We would work from Costco. We would work from, softball games. We have grit and tenacity. We figure out solutions to problems. And sometimes I would wake up the next day and say, I can't even believe I figured out how to do that without ever having to do that before. And after about the third startup, I decided that, my children were older and I wanted to work full time and really focus on a career in a more professional environment. I talked to Trish, who was the Girl Scout troop leader for my youngest daughter and Trish's youngest daughter. It's funny, the people that you know and that you're the circles you run with. And I said, there's this job at this Philadelphia firm. Do you know it? She did. I said, I'm really scared though, because, my background is project management and construction. And she was like, you're going to be okay. Trust me, you're going to be fine. and I did. I went there, and just like, we've heard before, it's those people that who encouraged you. I'm blessed that I have a wonderful partner that I've been with, married for 22 years, who always said, you got this. Every time I would say, I don't know if I can do this. This job seems way too big for me. And he would say, you got this. And people like Trish, who would say, of course you can do this. And if you need help, let me know. And then, the wonderful LMA network, who I just cannot even believe how much information and knowledge sharing there is in that community. Just a great resource for us in our positions. And I really just liked working in law firms in the environment and the strategic piece of the business development function. So that's how I ended up where I am today. But it really is all of those people who helped you along the way, from the women who would get my girls off the bus when I was on 95 calling saying, I can't believe I'm not going to make it to the bus stop, and they said, we got it. And just everyone along the way. Without all of those women, I wouldn't be where I am.
It's true. It really does take a community. And so I think and I know we want to get into some other stuff, but Jean Marie, I'm curious, I know you're a lawyer by trade, right? And then how did you pivot into legal marketing?
Yeah, well, I think some of the themes here is it takes a village, great mentors and people who stretched out their hands, and people on this call, right? I think I reached out to Jennifer Manton earlier and said, I remember my first sort of foray into legal marketing, how you and Dawn Gertz took me under your wing and introduced me to people, right? Same thing with Wendy Bernero, just took me and introduced me and sort of mentored me. So that to me is a theme, and I try and do the same. Someone asked a question about how do we treat women on our team.
Yeah, I saw that question and I want to get to it. How do we treat women on our team?
Right. So my path, very quickly, lawyer, 9 years, thought I wanted to be a partner in a law firm, kind of was up for partner, was told I was going to be the first woman corporate partner, which is kind of shocking back in 1999. But I just sort of hit the wall and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this for a living. I was married and I wanted to have kids, and I was like, there's no way. And so I said, I'm leaving the law, right? And everyone was like, what is wrong with you? And I couldn't get a legal marketing job, which is so interesting because I was all about clients. I was a good lawyer, right? But I was great with the clients.
And that's what Robin said too, right? Robin, she had trouble finding a job too.
And I was like, so I went into recruiting and talent and professional development. I always wanted to be a teacher. So I was like, oh, Kim Cooper Smith at the time was the part-time hiring partner at Aiken Gump. She's now the chairperson. Talk about a mentor. She's been an amazing mentor. She took a chance on me. And somehow I sort of kept making my way to clients. even when I did recruiting and talent and lateral partner hiring, I was like, well, who are their clients? Clients. And so I left Aiken Gump to go work at a client. I said, if I ever really want to come back to a law firm in a senior role, I need to kind of walk in the shoes of the client. So I worked at a client in the GC's office for 5 years. From that side, so I saw how clients select law firms, manage this $1 million budget of outside counsel, eye-opening. And I was like, I got to go back to law firms. Like, they need to know some of the stuff clients are saying about them. So that was my sort of my foray back to law firms. And I was a client relationship executive, Ropes and Gray and Oric. And then it was Wendy, who again has been my mentor all these years, when my focus has been on clients, less on marketing, more on business development, sales, and clients. She said, there's an opportunity at Baker. I'm getting a promotion to be the global CMO. What would you be interested in the North America? And I was like, that's interesting. And then the more that I looked into it and saw it, and I was like, oh, all of these pieces fit. I never saw myself as a CMO, right? I always thought of myself as a chief client officer, right? But it all fits. And I feel like almost like this was the job that I was made to be in, just taking all those pieces. And I love it. And every day is new and interesting. So there's my little sliver of path.
It's great. I think it's, so we're getting so many comments about how helpful it is to hear everyone's backgrounds. And I think it's great to, be able to say, okay, this is how you guys got to where you are. And I think it's helpful then for others to sort of, look at their own paths and how they've got there. But I think we learned a couple of themes, right? You should know Trish, you should know Jean and Wendy Bernero. It takes a village, and great mentors. And I would say also, don't be afraid to maybe take on something that you're not really sure about. And it sounds like you guys were all very tenacious about what you did. You all made very strategic moves, but also, one of the things is interesting, right? Like, I've had terrible bosses, and Jean, you said you had one. Jennifer sounds very bad. I think that has taught us what we don't want to be and what we want to be as a boss and as a leader. So that was to that other question we got, how are you with females now? Like, what advice do you give women who work with you or in the industry? And I've definitely asked you all this as part of Women Who Wow, but if you could give advice to women about succeeding in the legal industry, what would you say? And, again, not, feel free to answer if you want to or not. We've got other topics to cover, but would anyone like to say, what advice would you give to women who want to succeed in this industry?
I'd be happy to chime in very quickly. I know we could all give some great advice. I think that a lot of times women in all industries sit back and wait to be recognized, sit back and wait for somebody to say, hey, you're ready, I want to promote you, or I want to give you this opportunity. And I think that sometimes we've been told that self-promotion is a bad thing. I would say, number one, always be prepared. Over-prepare for your meetings, always look around the corner, always find ways to offer, volunteer and offer advice or recommendations. Sometimes we're afraid that maybe I'll look stupid if they say no, or if they shoot me down. Raising questions, making recommendations indicates that you've done your homework and you are keenly interested and invested in whatever you're doing. So I would say always be prepared, be knowledgeable, do your homework, and don't be afraid to raise your hand. And when it comes to investing in your own career, don't be afraid to raise your hand and say, I'm ready for that promotion. Don't wait for somebody to tell you you're ready.
I love that. Anyone else want to add on to what?
Mine's probably more elementary. Mine is, and I agree with everything Iris said. I can't wait to hear some others, but mine is really help each other and be kind to each other. I mean, it's just as simple as that. This, Stephanie, I have a team that's been with me for 16 years.
Yeah, and there's a reason why.
They help each other. They're nice to each other. They love each other. You know what I mean? And they want to see each other succeed. So I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's great. Okay.
I love that, Jean, and I'm gonna also get a little, I don't know, mushy about it. I think there's the power of positive thinking, right? Your husband saying to you, Jessica, you got this, right? You saying to yourself, I got this. You can always look at the negative. I mean, look at the last year and a half, right? But there's something about this power of there's a bright light. Positive. I'm going to learn something from this. And I know it's hokey. My husband makes fun of me like, oh, Pollyanna, right? I have to tell you, even in the coaching work that I do, and when I went back to study coaching, this positive thinking will drive you. You can do it. And so I just think that has helped me, and I try so hard without being hokey to my team to really infuse that sense of we can do this together, and actually you can do this.
I love that. That's great.
Embracing the discomfort, right, that you feel when you're doing something new, or you're trying, you're trying a new role, or learning a new skill. It's uncomfortable, and to just recognize that feeling, but then embrace it and say, yes, but this is how you don't become complacent, or you don't get bored with what you're doing. You embrace this discomfort, and that's how you know you're growing, or this is how you know it's working. Has really just been a huge shift for me. In just my mindset is when I feel that, I'm like, this is a good feeling. I have to embrace it.
I think that's a very positive development within our industry, but just to be the contrarian, I would say that when I started, there was a lot of, there were unrealistic expectations put on us all the time. Sometimes sort of as women in the workforce, sometimes just as, non-lawyers in a lawyer's world, or whatever it was. And there was this perverse part of me that if you're going to ask me to do things that are completely impossible, I'm not only going to do that, but I'm going to do it while I file my nails and drink a coffee. So I think that that's a really healthy shift, but the environment was not healthy, or was not as healthy when those of us who are a little bit more seasoned came into it. I can remember having a boss who was, did not rival yours, Jen, but was pretty damn close. And has influenced strongly how I try to be a boss, the type of boss I try to be. But, my appendix had burst. I continued going to work for a week, and I was in the hospital, and she was like, well, do you think you're going to finish that RFP? And I was like,
oh my God.
No. Like, I got it done.
Did you get it done?
I will give a shout out to Girl Walks Out of a Bar by Lisa Smith, with whom I worked at Deckard, who was a fellow marketer when I was there. And there's has nothing to do with addiction, which is sort of what the book is about, but recovery actually is what it's about. But there's one scene where she says something about finishing an RFP at 3 a.m. and sending it to a partner. And she says, in any other industry, this would raise a red flag. But in this industry that she was in, it would get her brownie points for doing it in the middle of the night. So that's the crazy that we were dealing with, and still to some degree do. So I think the positive is good. And then some of it is like, bet me, hold my beer, watch, So I think I approach it a little differently, but I felt like I just needed to put that out there.
Wendy would always say to me, like, she would always say, we're not saving lives today, Stephanie,
Right.
and no one died. I thought she would ask me, did anyone die? I'd be like, no. Will anyone die if you don't do that today? Maybe me? She'd be like, no. So it was like nice to put it in perspective, because we are not saving lives at the end of the day. We're helping.
If you come from a journalism background, as we both do, you miss a deadline, that's a pretty serious thing. There's an empty hole somewhere,
Right.
where there's supposed to be a story. That is hardly ever the case at a law firm with the things that we do.
And there's a help, and ask for, we can always ask for help. So guys, in terms of what you're doing besides crisis stuff and internal comms and COVID related things, can you tell us what else you're working on, what initiatives you're doing, what you're focused on from now until maybe the end of the year with your teams? What's top of mind? Like what's going on at your firms in terms of what's really driving, what you're driving with business development and marketing? Jennifer?
Well, thanks. I'm how quickly things change. It was just 3 weeks ago where we had all of our partners in the office here. Out of 100 partners, we had 75 that came to the office, and out of the 75 that came to the office, I think 6 took we had a partner town hall meeting, 6 took it from their office. But we had like over 60 people in our multi-purpose room. And I actually gave a presentation on our revenue generation strategy that we had really sort of kicked off right at the beginning of the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and we had been working on it with the practice group leaders, but we hadn't really sort of unveiled it to the partners and explained how what our goals were, what our metrics were going to be, how we were going to support this, what the initiatives were. So I had the opportunity to do that on July 22nd, like live and in-person presentation in front of 60 people, and it was really great and invigorating. And it was the first time since the pandemic started that I actually felt like I was doing what they hired me to do, which was to advance the strategy of the firm and how we were going to, increase demand for our services. So that felt really good, but it only lasted for like, I don't know, a week, because then I came back from vacation and all of this happened again. And now I'm on a flex working committee and writing these communications. And I put time on my calendar today we call it our G3 strategy, just to work on that for 3 hours today. So
it is that you got that though, like for a second, it felt a little bit normal again.
For a second.
Right? Yeah. Anyone else have another experience? Like, what are you guys focused on right now, like business development wise at your firm's growth revenue?
Yeah. And Stephanie, I have found that remote working has actually helped me get farther along in some of my strategy than I was before the pandemic, in that there were a lot of digital marketing strategies that I knew that would be helpful to the firm, that would actually bring in leads that everyone was ignoring for a long time. And now everyone's paying attention, right? Because once you get 1 or 2 leads in that land one case, now everybody wants in on it, and everyone's at home and paying attention. So that's what I'm particularly go year. I do want to, and if anybody has a good vendor they want to share, I do want to engage a market research firm to specifically look at our practice areas and do some forecasting with me to help me figure out, where are we going to end up at the end of 2022, at the end of 10 years from now, 5 years from now. What I see big RFPs coming 22, 23. If you're not preparing for them, you should be. A lot of changes are happening. Budgets are being slashed. Margins of businesses are thin, and naturally the uncertain legal budget. So I'm not apprehensive, but I want to try to get ahead in my head.
That's awesome. Okay, I think we're maybe losing you a little bit. John, someone asked if you could put in the comments, like, what are those digital resources that helped you this year, if you could. We heard you up until the very, very end, then it started breaking up just a little bit. Jean, what are you guys focused on at Benish right now? I know recruiting was a big part of your strategy for a while. Is it still? And everyone, we know this from Leopard's data, is the hottest job market in 20 years, and the legal field is so competitive for talent right now. So retaining and attracting associates, especially in corporate, is nearly impossible. It is very difficult. So in terms of like talent, laterals, and all that kind of stuff, I'm curious what's going on over at Benish, and if anyone else wants to chime in on this, because I know this is a systemic issue that we're having. I'm doing recruiting marketing strategy for the first time in 15 years of working with a top 10 firm on this, because they realize the value of this. So I hope other firms are seeing that recruiting really needs to work with marketing. Okay, bye Trish, we'll see you. And then we're gonna wrap up. But anyone else want to just quickly talk about, recruiting and marketing and how that's working together on the lateral side?
We have not stopped. COVID did not stop our recruiting efforts, and so we are spending a lot of time in integration, tons of time, and we're helping to lead a lot of that. We've put together a pretty cool program where we are doing an internal and external integration survey to find out how we're doing and we're doing it from finding out how our clients are doing with it, and then finding out how our actual attorneys are doing. And so my team is leading that whole effort. But it's been nonstop. There's not been a breather. I think a lot of people thought it might slow down, but the client demand is just humongous right now.
Is there anything you guys are doing to keep to attract people to join your firms, because it's very difficult?
I like to ask that question as it pertains to developing our teams, because I'm about to put a position on the market, and I literally am asking for permission to give a signing bonus to the person to make them come here. So I would love to know what the market, what others are doing to attract talent in our space.
Yeah, any thoughts on that? I know that it is incredibly, Eva Wisnick was telling me that it is so hard to fill positions right now in general, and that people are staying at what I'm hearing also, people are staying at their firms. They get offers and then they stay. They go back to their firms and the firms match the salary or whatever it is. So in the legal marketing area. And that's also, by the way, happening in the recruiting market for associates. The in-house, like, clients really want in-house lawyers too, and they're matching salaries. They can't do the signing bonuses, but there's competition coming from every which way. So have you guys done anything interesting to try to attract people to join your teams?
I think right now, the most important factor in most positions is the culture and whether or not it's a match. We know that talent wants flexibility. They want hybrid situations. They want the ability to possibly work a 60% schedule, or they want the flexibility so that they can be home for their families or other things that they have going on. And I think the pandemic and forcing everyone to be home in most markets has really, people are not willing to give up some of the silver linings of the pandemic, of being able to spend more time with your families, or being able to pick the kids up, off the bus, and just those little moments that we didn't realize we were maybe missing before. So I think that the culture is really, people are saying, I would give up money, and it's not really that's the driving factor anymore. That being said, we're seeing signing bonuses in the industry. Certainly more, I think, matching to stay where they are is more of the norm, much to the chagrin of the folks in the recruiting field. That's worst case scenario for them. But I think flexibility and culture and meaning it, and not, saying one thing and then kind of taking it back later is going to be the most important factor now and moving forward.
I agree.
Can I ask another question?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, how many of you are going to be offering flexibility to your marketing and BD teams? We are. I just rolled out our plan to our team on Monday.
All of my clients are doing that. And if you don't, you're going to have problems retaining your people or getting people to join you.
Well, I need to know the names of those firms that aren't, so I can go there and find my people.
I've gotten 3 requests over the last week from CMOs asking if I knew of anyone. I mean, it is really right now, it's tough hiring.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, to Stephanie's point.
I am getting offers to go. People are like, do you want to go back to a law firm? I'm like, I'm not sure yet. It depends what it is. There are a lot of people who've also done what I've done, which is start their own business during all of this, and not sure where they want to go. So I think that's also interesting. Your diverse candidates in general are at incredible risk, especially on the lawyer side, because there is so much competition for firms that want those folks. So everyone's at risk. Corporate associates between year 3 and 5 too. It's just, so yeah, Jen, I think it's any firm that is saying go back to the office every single day and business as usual is not going to have as easy of a time as attracting and retaining people. And I know people who are looking to leave firms, exactly what you were saying, firms that are making them come to the office every day, or starting in September, going to the office every day.
We'll talk after.
Yeah, we can talk after. I think that whole idea also of treating staff differently than lawyers is not going to do well. So if you continue to offer flex time or working from home to the lawyers and you require staff to go back to work full time, there's going to be a mass, what do they call it? The Wall Street Journal called it the mass resignation of people who are just going to say, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere else and do something different.
And also giving them the same benefits that attorneys are getting.
Yeah, see,
The paternity leave, maternity, exactly,
100%.
all of those.
Yeah.
How many of us have worked at firms where the staff had different maternity leave than the lawyers? And it's to me, and I mean, I haven't had kids
Thankfully
yet, but
not anymore.
it was a terrible kind of thing to be like, well, we're treated as second-class citizens. And I love what Jen Scalzi says about we're revenue enablers. And that's always sort of what sticks in the back of my head when I position myself. Someone asked, I think this is a great point, Kim Parrott, you said, will you expand your hiring pool outside of your office location? So I'm seeing law firms do this on the attorney side, and I hope they do this on the staff side. And Jen, that might be something you may want to consider, which is, remote hiring. Like, so I have a law firm, one of my clients just hired a really powerhouse lawyer in Rochester, New York. They don't have a Rochester office. So if you open yourself up to people who are not who are in your jurisdiction, you may have a better chance of finding talent and also cheaper talent. So think about that. So I know we're most of you stayed on this. I'm really excited. So thank you guys. I'd love to ask you guys for that advice of what you'd like to tell your younger self. So Jean Marie, what would you tell younger Jean Marie? And I'll pull up the photo while you guys are talking, because I definitely messed up here and didn't for everybody.
My younger self, I was very shy as a kid, which, my girls, I have 3 girls, can't even believe that I was shy. I don't know, something happened. I would say really believe in yourself. This power of you can do anything. I have a 19-year-old who is in college and she's always doubting herself. And I'm like, you can do it, Bridget. What are you talking about? And so I wish that I had just the confidence that I have now. And now I'm sort of like, I don't care what anyone thinks. Like, I care what I think. And so this notion of be true to yourself, believe in yourself, and just go for it.
I love that. Anyone want to guess who Jean Marie is on this list, on this picture?
The redhead, second from the left on the right.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
So
For some advice,
Mhm.
it's probably advice that I actually took, because I think my mother didn't give me a choice. I remember wanting to quit that job so many times. And she said, you have student loans and you have a car payment and you need to stay there 2 years and pay your dues. Pay your dues, then you can move on. And maybe I'm getting old, but maybe I see it within my own nieces and nephews, but there isn't a lot of willingness to pay your dues sometimes.
No, there's not anymore.
And
I
you do
agree
have to
with
pay
you.
your dues. It's
Jen,
how
I
you learn and
couldn't agree
gain
more with you.
experience. Yeah, it's how you get the grit and determination that I think Jessica talked about, which I wholeheartedly agree with.
Yep.
And
I
you
think
only earn
people-
that through paying your dues.
People are more willing. I think it's a different kind of like generational mindset maybe now, where like they have other options or they're looking for different things, but people don't stick it out as much as we did. And maybe we are martyrs. Maybe we are gluttons for punishment that we did stick it out. I mean, how many of us have had jobs that have been miserable? But I think your mom's advice, and your mom sounds like she was incredibly smart from the other stuff you shared with us about her, was spot on at that time. And you did learn a lot from that woman. And she taught you, here's the thing, every bad boss I've ever had has taught me what I don't want to be in a boss or what I don't want to emulate. And I've thanked everybody who's entered my life who's been bad to me, because they've helped me grow into the person I am now too, good and bad. So that's a good thing. Jessica, want to tell us who you are on this chart?
So I am the one in the circle on the phone.
And you look exactly the same, in my opinion. I love it. And I love all of your advice, and you guys should read Jessica. I put a link in here and I'll do it. I'll put another link to Jessica's interview. we've got a couple people. So Dawn, want to reveal who you are?
Yes. I am the one with the bubbles.
She's the one with the bubbles.
You
Okay.
hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. And then we've got also Trish is the bottom left.
Yeah, I could tell
Right.
that.
Yeah. We've got Robin, who is the bottom second, I guess second from the right. Iris, all the way on the right-hand side.
That was the toughest one, wasn't it?
Beautiful photo. And then
Thank you.
I put myself up here in my
I
first
see that.
my first power suit that was in front of a USA the science fair in the first grade, and it was the first time I wore a suit, and I haven't worn a suit, guys, in months. Can I ask you guys?
Your mother gave you the straightest part.
I know it
Look
really.
how straight your part is.
I know it
That's
really
impressive.
was. Are any of you guys like clothing wise at work? Like, do you guys feel like your firms are like more casual now, or no, or where
They
are
actually
you, like-
announced they're more casual. They actually
Okay, that is really good to hear, because I
Wore jeans forever now.
really, that's great. I am hearing some firms say they want to redo all their headshots because the buttoned up, suit and tie kind of
Yep.
thing doesn't fit with the way the world is today. So I thought that was interesting also. So any final words, guys? We didn't get to everything. I'd love to have y'all back in the fall again for part 2, if you're willing. I'm so excited that you are all here. Any other parting words of wisdom?
I would like to just chime in because I gave this a lot of thought when you shared this with the panel. And, being a person of color, being a Black woman, growing up, I'm a baby boomer, so I grew up through some really difficult times. And I think we all have had our come to Jesus moment with respect to our country after George Floyd's murder on live TV. I would say to my younger self, be yourself, be authentic, bring your authentic self, no matter what the consequences, because you are enough.
Okay, well, I don't know any other
Oh,
better way to end today
great way to
other than
end.
that. So,
thank you, Iris.
Iris,
My pleasure.
thank you.
Love
And
seeing all you.
we didn't get to diversity and a bunch of other topics that I want to, but we will again. So I'd love to invite y'all back. Thank you, all of you, for making the
Thank
time
you,
to do
Stephanie.
this. Thank you, Leopard.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I miss you all tremendously. So this, I think, helps to connect us. So thank you for everyone who joined us. I'll have a recording of this, and take care. Be well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
See you,
you.
everyone.
Thanks for bringing us